I was folding laundry when the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Mrs. Henderson? A child's voice. Young, maybe 12. Yes, this is Gloria Henderson. Who's calling? My name is Christopher. My dad said if something happened to him, I should call this number. My heart skipped. Your dad? What's your dad's name, baby? Vernon Henderson. He's my dad. Are you his wife? The room started spinning. Vernon Henderson. My husband of 35 years. This child was calling me, asking if I was Vernon's wife, which meant this child knew Vernon was married. Ma'am, are you still there? I sat down heavily. I'm here, baby. Where's your father? He's in the hospital. He had a heart attack this morning, at our house. Mom called 911, but she told me to call you. She said you needed to know. Our house. Mom. Vernon had another house, another family. What hospital, Christopher? Mercy General, on Fletcher Street. Ma'am. Are you coming? I'll be there. I hung up and stared at the phone. For 12 years, every Saturday morning, Vernon had kissed me goodbye and said, "Going fishing with the guys, Glory. Be back for dinner." Every single Saturday for 12 years. And I'd believed him. I'd packed his lunch, made him sandwiches, filled his thermos. I'd asked about the fish he caught, listened to his stories. I'd washed his fishing clothes, the shirts that smelled like lake water. Except they didn't smell like lake water. They smelled like someone else's laundry detergent, someone else's fabric softener, someone else's life. My name is Gloria May Henderson. I'm 58 years old. For 35 years, I was married to Vernon Henderson. For 12 of those years, he had a whole other family. A woman named Keisha, a son named Christopher, a house on Fletcher Street where he spent every Saturday, while I sat at home waiting for him to bring back fish he never caught. This is the story of how a 12-year-old boy's phone call destroyed my marriage, and how I discovered that the man I loved had been living two lives, one with me and one with them. I grabbed my purse and my keys. Vernon was in the hospital, and I was going to get answers. To understand how I missed this for 12 years, you need to understand my marriage. Vernon and I met in 1988 at a church fish fry in Atlanta. He was 30, working construction, with the kindest smile I'd ever seen. I was 28, managing the cafeteria at Douglas Elementary School. We dated 2 years before getting married in 1990. Small wedding, my family, his family, our church community. We bought a modest house in East Point, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, small yard. It wasn't much, but it was ours. For the first 20 years, our marriage was good, not perfect, no marriage is, but good, solid, built on trust and routine and showing up for each other. Vernon worked construction Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturdays for overtime. I worked at the school, coming home at 3 p.m. to start dinner. We went to church every Sunday. Same group of friends for decades. We never had children. It wasn't for lack of trying. We tried for 10 years, doctor after doctor, test after test. Finally, in our late 30s, we accepted it wasn't going to happen. Maybe God has other plans for us, Vernon had said, holding my hand after our last doctor appointment. I'd cried that night, mourned the children we'd never have. But Vernon had been there, strong, supportive. We have each other. That's enough. And I'd believed him. We helped raise Vernon's nephew Marcus for a few years when Vernon's sister got sick. But Marcus went back to his mother when she recovered. So it was just the two of us. And that had been enough, or so I thought. The fishing trip started in 2011. Vernon came home one Friday and announced, "Some guys from the job are starting a fishing club, going out every Saturday morning. I'm thinking about joining." "That sounds nice," I'd said. "You need a hobby besides work." "You don't mind?" "Why would I mind? Go have fun with your friends." That first Saturday, he left at 7 a.m. with cooler, fishing rod, and tackle box. He came home at 6 p.m. smelling like outdoors and sunscreen. "Catch anything?" "Couple of bass. Threw them back. Water was beautiful, though. I'm glad you had a good time." And that was it. The pattern was established. Every Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., fishing with the guys for 12 years. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The first year, Vernon would come home with stories, details, names. Jerome caught a catfish this big, spreading his hands wide. Biggest one I've ever seen. Curtis fell in the water trying to reach his line. We laughed for 20 minutes. But over time, the stories got vaguer. How was fishing? Good. Relaxing. Catch anything? Nah, just enjoyed being out there. Year 3, I asked, do you ever bring the fish home? I could cook them fresh. Nah, Gloria. Most days we don't catch keeper size. And the ones we do, we throw back. It's more about the peace and quiet. Made sense to me. Year 5, I suggested. Maybe I could come with you sometime. Pack a picnic. Vernon looked uncomfortable. It's kind of a guy's thing, you know. We talk about work stuff. You'd be bored. I don't mind. Gloria, please, let me have this one thing that's just mine. I work hard all week. I need this time. So I backed off. Because that's what you do in a marriage, right? You give your spouse space. Year 7, Vernon started leaving earlier. 6 a.m. instead of 7. Want to get there before it gets too hot. Year 9, he started coming home later. 7 p.m. instead of 6. Lost track of time. The guys wanted to stay for sunset. Year 10, I noticed he'd bought new clothes. Nicer jeans, better shirts. You're dressing pretty nice for fishing, I'd teased. Just want to look presentable. I'd laughed it off. Year 11, I found a receipt in his truck. Applebee's? $45. On a Saturday. I thought you brought lunch? Oh yeah, the guys wanted to stop for a late lunch on the way back. My treat. That was nice of you. But something nagged at me. $45 for one person at Applebee's? I'd pushed the thought away. You don't want to be that wife. The suspicious one. The one who doesn't trust. Year 12. 2 weeks before Christopher's phone call. Vernon had come home at 7:30 p.m., later than usual. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible. He'd kissed my cheek, showered, eaten dinner, and I'd noticed his phone was face down on the table. Always face down. When had that started? Everything okay? I'd asked. Yeah, why? You seem distracted. Just tired. Long day. That night, after Vernon fell asleep, I'd lain awake staring at the ceiling. Something felt off. Had felt off for a while. But I couldn't put my finger on what. Vernon wasn't acting suspicious exactly. He wasn't secretive or distant. He still kissed me goodbye every morning. Still said, I love you before bed. We still went to church together on Sundays. Still had dinner with friends. Our marriage seemed fine. But there was this absence. This hole I couldn't name. Like part of him wasn't fully present anymore. Like he was going through the motions of our life together, but his heart was somewhere else. I'd told myself I was being paranoid. We'd been married 35 years. People change. Marriages evolve. Maybe this was just what long marriage looked like. Comfortable. Routine. I'd fallen asleep that night convincing myself everything was fine. 2 weeks later, Christopher called. Now, sitting in my car outside Mercy General Hospital, I thought about all those Saturdays. 624 Saturdays over 12 years. 624 times Vernon had kissed me goodbye. 624 times he'd driven away from our house, and driven to theirs, to Keisha, to Christopher, to the life he'd built without me knowing. How do you do that? How do you maintain 2 completely separate lives? How do you look your wife in the eye every single day and lie? Not just lie about where you're going, but lie about who you are. Because Vernon must have loved them. You don't spend every Saturday for 12 years with people you don't love. You don't have a child with someone you don't love. Christopher was 12, which meant Vernon had been with Keisha for at least 13 years. 13 years of our 35-year marriage, more than a third of our life together. All of it a lie. I thought about Christopher, 12 years old, calling me because his father was in the hospital. A child who knew his father had a wife, who knew his family was a secret. What must that be like? Growing up knowing you're the secret? Did Christopher wonder why his dad left every Sunday morning? Did Keisha make excuses? Daddy has to work on Sundays. Or did Christopher know the truth, that his father had another wife, another home, another life? God, what a mess. What a complete, devastating mess. I got out of the car and walked toward the hospital entrance. My hands were shaking. My stomach was in knots. I didn't know what I was going to find inside. I didn't know if Vernon was okay, if he was even conscious. I didn't know if Keisha would be there, if Christopher would be there. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew one thing. I was done being the wife who didn't ask questions. I was done being the woman who trusted blindly. Vernon had lived 2 lives for 12 years, and I was about to make sure he lost both of them. My best friend Ruby had always said, "Glory, you're too trusting. You believe the best in people even when they show you otherwise." She'd been right. I walked through the automatic doors into the hospital lobby. The smell of antiseptic and floor cleaner hit me immediately. A volunteer at the information desk smiled. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Vernon Henderson. He was brought in this morning. Heart attack." She typed on her computer. "Room 412, 4th floor, ICU." "Thank you." I took the elevator up, each floor making my heart pound harder. What was I going to say to him? What was he going to say to me? The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor, and that's when I saw her. A woman, late 30s, beautiful, sitting in the waiting area with a young boy. She was holding his hand, crying quietly. The boy looked up at me as I stepped off the elevator. "Are you Mrs. Henderson?" he asked. It was Christopher, the voice from the phone, and the woman next to him was Keisha, the other woman, the mother of my husband's child. They both stared at me. I stared back. And in that moment, standing in that hospital hallway, my entire world shattered into a million pieces. Because this wasn't just some affair, some mistake. This was a family, a real family, with a mother and a child and 12 years of history. And my husband was the father. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Christopher looked between me and his mother, uncertain. Keisha stood up slowly, still holding Christopher's hand. "Mrs. Henderson," she said quietly. "I'm Keisha. This is Christopher." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. She was beautiful. Younger than me by 20 years. Long braids, warm brown skin, tired eyes. She wasn't what I expected. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought the other woman would be trashy, cheap-looking. Obviously wrong. But Keisha looked like someone I'd sit next to in church, someone I'd chat with at the grocery store, normal, real. That made it worse somehow. "I know this is..." Keisha trailed off. "I know this must be a shock." "A shock?" My voice came out strangled. "My husband has a whole other family and you think it's a shock?" Christopher flinched. Keisha pulled him closer. "Can we talk?" Keisha asked. "Somewhere private? Not here. Not in front of your son? The son he had with you while married to me? Mrs. Henderson, please. I know you're angry." "Angry?" "Angry doesn't even begin to cover what I'm feeling right now." A nurse walked past, glancing at us. We were causing a scene. I took a breath, forced myself to calm down. "How is he?" I asked. "Vernon, how is he?" "Stable," Keisha said. "The doctors said it was a mild heart attack. He's sedated right now. They're running more tests." "Can I see him?" "He's in ICU. Family only." "I am family. I'm his wife." Keisha looked at the floor. "So am I." The words hung in the air like a slap. "What did you just say?" "We got married 6 months ago, in a small ceremony. Just us and Christopher and a few friends." The floor tilted beneath my feet. "That's impossible. You can't be married to him. I'm married to him." "Not legally, not anymore." "What are you talking about?" Keisha reached into her purse and pulled out a folded document. She handed it to me. I unfolded it with shaking hands. Divorce decree, filed in DeKalb County. Plaintiff, Vernon Lee Henderson. Defendant, Gloria May Henderson. Dated 8 months ago. Granted 6 months ago. My signature at the bottom. Except it wasn't my signature. It looked like my signature. Close enough to fool someone who didn't know. But it wasn't mine. "I never signed this," I whispered. Keisha's face changed. What? I never signed these divorce papers. I never even saw them. Vernon forged my signature. That's not possible. He said what? That we got divorced? That I knew about you? He said the divorce was finalized months ago. That you'd moved on. That you both agreed it was time. I laughed. A harsh, broken sound. I found out you existed 45 minutes ago when your son called me. I had no idea Vernon wanted a divorce. I had no idea any of this was happening. Keisha sat down heavily, pulling Christopher with her. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, he lied to me. He lied to both of us." We sat in silence for a moment, two women who'd both been deceived by the same man. Christopher spoke up, his voice small. "Is my dad going to be okay?" I looked at this child, 12 years old, brown eyes like Vernon's, the same dimple in his left cheek, Vernon's son. "I don't know, baby," I said honestly. "But the doctors are taking good care of him." Christopher nodded, tears running down his face. Keisha put her arm around him. "Why don't you go get a snack from the vending machine? Here's some money." Christopher took the bills and walked down the hall, grateful for an escape. Once he was out of earshot, Keisha turned to me. "I didn't know," she said. "I swear to God, I didn't know he was still married to you. How long have you been with him?" 13 years. We met at the restaurant where I work. He'd come in for lunch. We started talking. He said he was divorced, that his wife had left him years ago. "And you believed him?" "Why wouldn't I? He seemed genuine, kind. He started coming in every week, then every day, then he asked me out." "And you never questioned why you only saw him on Saturdays?" Keisha looked away. "At first, yes. But he said he worked construction 6 days a week. That Saturday was his only day off, that he wanted to spend every free moment with me. It sounded romantic, like he was making time for me, even though he was exhausted from work." "Did you ever come to his house?" "He said he was living with his brother temporarily, that it wasn't a good place to bring me. We always met at my apartment or went out. For 13 years? He bought us a house, 3 years after we met. Said he wanted Christopher to grow up in a real home. The house on Fletcher Street." I thought about that. Vernon had bought them a house while still living with me. Where had he gotten the money? "How did he afford a house?" I asked. He said he'd been saving, that he'd gotten a settlement from a work injury years ago. A work injury? That was new. Vernon had never been injured at work, or if he had, I'd never heard about it. "Did he ever stay overnight with you? At the Fletcher Street house?" "No. He always said he had to get back to his brother's place, that his brother was sick and needed help. Every single Saturday for 13 years he left." Keisha nodded, tears running down her face. "Sunday mornings, around 7 a.m., he'd kiss me goodbye, tell Christopher he loved him, and leave, to come back to me, to come back to you." We sat in silence, processing this. Vernon had built an entire life with Keisha, a relationship, a child, a home. But he'd never spent a full weekend with them, never been there Sunday through Friday. Because Sunday through Friday, he was with me. "Did Christopher ever ask why his dad wasn't around more?" I asked. "All the time. Vernon told him he worked long hours, that construction was demanding, that he was providing for us." "Did Christopher believe it?" "I think he wanted to, but kids aren't stupid. He knew something was off." "Is that why he knew to call me? Because Vernon had told him about me?" Keisha nodded. "Vernon sat Christopher down 6 months ago, after we got married. He said there was something Christopher needed to know. He told him he'd been married before, to you, that it had ended badly, that you were still angry with him. He gave Christopher your phone number, said if anything ever happened to him, Christopher should call you, because despite everything, you deserve to know." I laughed bitterly. How thoughtful of him. I thought it was mature, responsible. He was making sure his past was tied up properly. Except his past wasn't his past. I was his present, his wife, living with him every single day. Keisha covered her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry, I had no idea. It's not your fault. Vernon lied to you too. But I should have known. There were signs. Times when he couldn't answer his phone. days when he was unreachable. What did he say when you asked? That he was at work, that construction sites had bad reception, that he'd call me back when he could. And he always did. Eventually, he always called back, always made time, always showed up on Saturday. For 12 years, I said. He showed up every single Saturday. 13 years, Keisha corrected. The first year, before Christopher was born, he came twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. My stomach turned. Wednesdays? He said he had half-days on Wednesdays, that his boss let him leave early. Vernon had never had half-days on Wednesdays, which meant, for 1 year, he'd been lying to me about working late when he was actually with Keisha. How many other lies were there? How many other times had Vernon told me he was working, or fishing, or helping a friend, when he was really with them? Did he ever mention me? I asked. By name? Once, about a year ago. We were watching TV and there was a news story about a woman named Gloria. He got quiet, said that was his ex-wife's name. I asked if he wanted to talk about it. He said no, that it was in the past and he wanted to focus on our future. Our future. He was planning a future with you while still living with me. I thought the divorce was final. I thought you knew. I didn't know anything. I stood up, pacing. I thought my husband went fishing every Saturday. That's what I knew. That's what I believed. Mrs. Henderson, call me Gloria. We're apparently sister wives, so we might as well use first names. Keisha winced. Gloria, I know you have no reason to believe me, but I'm not a homewrecker. I would never knowingly date a married man. But you did, for 13 years. Because he lied, because he made me believe he was free. And I believed he was faithful. We both believed his lies. We were both crying now. 2 women destroyed by the same man's deception. Christopher came back with a candy bar, looking worried. Mom, are you okay? Keisha wiped her face. I'm fine, baby. Just tired. Can we see Dad yet? Not yet. Soon. A doctor came down the hallway, clipboard in hand. Family of Vernon Henderson? Keisha and I both stood up. The doctor looked between us, confused. I'm his wife, Keisha said. I'm his wife, I said at the same time. The doctor's eyebrows went up. I see. Well, Mr. Henderson is stable. The heart attack was mild. We've given him medication to prevent another one. He'll need to stay for observation, but he should make a full recovery. Can we see him? Keisha asked. He's awake now, but he's weak. Only one visitor at a time. And keep it brief. Keisha looked at me. You should go first. Why me? Because you need answers, and he owes you that. She was right. Vernon owed me a lot of things. Answers, apologies, explanations. But most of all, he owed me the truth. Room 412, the doctor said. Down the hall, last door on the left. I walked down that hallway feeling like I was walking to my own execution. Every step was heavy. Every breath was hard. When I reached room 412, I stood outside for a moment. Behind this door was my husband of 35 years. The man I'd loved since I was 28 years old. The man I'd trusted completely. The man who'd lied to me for over a decade. I pushed the door open. Vernon was lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and IVs. He looked small, vulnerable, old. When he saw me, his eyes widened. Glory, he whispered. Don't, I said. Don't you dare call me that. I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how you have a whole other family? How you forged my signature on divorce papers? How you've been living 2 lives for 13 years? Vernon closed his eyes. Christopher called you. Your 12-year-old son called me, because you had a heart attack at the house you bought for your other family. The family I didn't know existed. Glory, please. How could you do this to me? How could you lie to my face every single day for 13 years? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Vernon? Were you ever going to tell me? He didn't answer. Were you just going to keep living both lives forever? Keep lying to both of us until you died? I love you, he said. No, you don't. You don't lie to people you love. You don't destroy people you love. I do love you. I never stopped loving you. But you love her too. Vernon's silence was answer enough. How did this start? I asked. How did you meet her? At work. She brought lunch to one of the construction sites. We started talking. And you just decided to have an affair? It wasn't like that. I was lonely. Lonely? We were together every day. But we weren't really together. Not the way we used to be. After we found out we couldn't have kids, something changed between us. So you went out and made a kid with someone else? Vernon flinched. I didn't plan for that to happen. But it did happen. And instead of telling me, instead of ending our marriage honestly, you decided to keep both of us. I couldn't choose. I loved you both. That's not love, Vernon. That's selfishness. That's cowardice. You're right, he whispered. You're absolutely right. Why didn't you just divorce me? Why forge the papers? Because I wanted it all. I wanted you and I wanted them. I thought if I could just manage both lives. Manage? Like we're business accounts you're juggling? That's not what I meant. What did you mean? Please, Vernon, help me understand how you thought this was okay. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Every Saturday when I left your house, I drove to theirs and I felt alive. Like I was living the life I was supposed to have. The family I was supposed to have. But every Sunday when I came back to you, I felt at home, safe. Like I was with the person I was always meant to be with. I couldn't give up either feeling. So I kept both. At our expense. At the expense of me and Keisha and Christopher. I know. And I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't undo 13 years of lies. Vernon started crying. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth. All of it. No more lies. What do you want to know? Everything. I want to know everything. So he told me. He told me about meeting Keisha at the construction site 13 years ago. How she'd smiled at him and he'd felt something he hadn't felt in years. How they'd started talking. Then texting. Then meeting for coffee. How it had escalated from emotional affair to physical affair within months. How Keisha had gotten pregnant and he'd panicked. How he'd thought about leaving me but couldn't bring himself to do it. How he'd decided to keep both lives going. To be a father to Christopher while staying married to me. How he'd bought the house on Fletcher Street with money he'd been secretly saving for years. Money from overtime I thought he was putting into our retirement. How he'd created an entire routine. Saturdays with them, every other day with me. How he'd nearly been caught dozens of times but always managed to lie his way out. How 6 months ago he'd decided to make it official. To divorce me and marry Keisha. But he hadn't wanted to actually go through a real divorce, hadn't wanted lawyers or courts or questions, so he'd forged my signature, filed the papers himself, and married Keisha thinking he'd gotten away with it. Did you ever love me? I asked when he finished. Yes. God, yes, I still love you. But you love her too. Yes. And Christopher? He's my son. I love him more than anything. More than you love me. Vernon didn't deny it. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a choice Vernon had made every single day for 13 years. He'd chosen them, and he'd kept me around because it was convenient. Because he could have both. I want a divorce, I said. A real one. With lawyers and courts and everything you tried to avoid. Glory. And I want the house. The house we bought together 33 years ago. The house I've lived in and maintained and loved. You can have it. I want half of your pension, half of your 401k, half of everything we built together. Okay. And I want you to tell Christopher the truth. I want him to know that you lied to his mother and to me, that you destroyed 2 families because you were too selfish to choose. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You had 2 families, Vernon. You had everything. And Keisha and I had half of you, half of a husband, half of a father for Christopher. That's not fair to any of us. Vernon looked at me with tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Glory. I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. I turned to leave. Glory, wait. I stopped at the door, but didn't turn around. For what it's worth, Vernon said. I really did love you. I still do. I know, I said. That's what makes this so much worse. I walked out of that room and down the hallway. Keisha was sitting in the waiting area with Christopher. She looked up when she saw me. How is he? He'll live, I said, unfortunately. Did he tell you everything? Everything. Keisha nodded. What happens now? Now we both file for divorce. Real divorces, legal ones. I filed for marriage with forged papers. Is that even legal? I don't know. But we'll figure it out, with lawyers. I can't afford a lawyer. Neither can I. But we'll figure it out. Christopher looked up at me. Are you mad at my dad? I crouched down to his level. Yeah, baby, I'm mad at your dad. But not at you. None of this is your fault. Is it my fault he had a heart attack? No, honey. Hearts attack when they're sick, not because of anything you did. Mom says Dad was stressed because he had 2 families. I looked at Keisha, who looked away, embarrassed. Your dad made some bad choices, I said carefully. But that's on him, not on you or your mom or me. Are you going to take him away from us? The question broke my heart, because I could. I could make Vernon's life hell, could expose him to everyone, could ruin him. But Christopher was just a kid who loved his dad. No, baby, I'm not going to take him away from you. Your dad did wrong things, but he loves you, and you deserve to have a dad who loves you. Christopher hugged me. This child I'd never met, this boy who was the physical proof of my husband's betrayal. And I hugged him back, because none of this was his fault. Thank you, Keisha whispered. I nodded and left, walked to the elevator, down to the lobby, out to my car, sat in the driver's seat and finally let myself fall apart. I cried for the marriage I thought I had, for the 35 years I'd given to a man who'd given me only parts of himself, for the life I'd built that had been a lie. But most of all, I cried for the woman I used to be, the woman who trusted, who believed, who loved completely. That woman was gone. Vernon had killed her the day he decided to have 2 families. Now all that was left was me, Gloria May Henderson, 58 years old, alone, but finally free to see the truth. I drove home in a daze. Everything looked different now. The streets I'd driven down for 35 years, the neighborhood I knew by heart. It all looked foreign, like I was seeing it for the first time. Because the woman who'd driven these streets this morning was gone. She'd been replaced by someone I didn't recognize, someone whose husband had a whole other family. When I got home, I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes, staring at the house. Our house. The house Vernon and I had bought in 1990. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, small yard with the magnolia tree we'd planted together. I'd thought this was our home, our life. But Vernon had another home, another life. A house on Fletcher Street with Keisha and Christopher. How did you split a man's life in half like that? I finally got out of the car and went inside. The house was exactly as I'd left it this morning. Laundry basket on the couch, coffee cup in the sink. This morning felt like a lifetime ago. I walked through the house, seeing it with new eyes. The bedroom Vernon and I had shared for 33 years. The bed we'd made love in. The closet where his clothes hung next to mine. How many Saturday mornings had he gotten dressed in this room, kissed me goodbye, and driven to another woman? I opened his closet. His fishing clothes were there. The worn jeans, the faded t-shirts, the baseball cap. I grabbed the hat and held it to my nose. It didn't smell like lake water. It smelled like cologne, and something else, something sweet. Keisha's perfume, probably. I threw the hat across the room. Then I started pulling everything out of Vernon's closet. Every shirt, every pair of pants, every shoe. I piled it all on the bed. 35 years of clothes, 35 years of pretending to be my husband. My phone rang. Ruby. Glory, where are you? I've been calling you all day. I'm home. Are you okay? You sound strange. Vernon has another family. Silence. Then, what? A whole other family. A woman named Keisha. A 12-year-old son named Christopher. A house on Fletcher Street. Glory, what are you talking about? So I told her. Everything. The phone call from Christopher, the hospital, meeting Keisha, the forged divorce papers, Vernon's confession. Ruby was silent for a long time when I finished. Then she said, "I'm coming over." "You don't have to. I'm already in my car." She hung up. 20 minutes later, Ruby was at my door with a bottle of wine and a box of tissues. "Okay," she said, pouring us both a glass. "Tell me everything again, slower this time." So I did. Ruby listened without interrupting. Her face got harder with every detail. When I finished, she said, "That man is the devil." "Ruby, no, I'm serious. Who does that? Who lives 2 entire lives for 13 years? Apparently Vernon does. Did you know? Did you suspect anything?" "No. I mean, sometimes I felt like something was off, but I never imagined this. The fishing trips, every Saturday for 12 years. He was with them, and you never questioned it?" "Why would I? I trusted him." Ruby shook her head. "Men ain't worth trusting. Not all men. All men, every last one of them. They're all liars." We drank our wine in silence. Then Ruby said, "What are you going to do?" "Divorce him. Take everything I can, make sure he pays." "Good. You deserve everything. That house on Fletcher Street, that's yours too." "How?" "He bought it with money he saved. Money he saved during your marriage. That's marital property. You're entitled to half." "I don't want anything to do with that house." "Then sell it. Take the money. Make him hurt. Ruby, there's a child, Christopher. He lives there." "That's not your problem. That's Vernon's problem." "But the child didn't do anything wrong." "Neither did you, but you're the one suffering." She was right, but I couldn't shake the image of Christopher's face, his tears, his fear. "I need to figure out what's mine," I said. "What Vernon and I built together, what he stole from us to give to them. You need a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. Then we'll find you one who works on contingency, or pro bono. There's got to be someone who'll take this case." Ruby pulled out her phone and started making calls. Within an hour, she'd found 3 lawyers willing to talk to me. "Tomorrow," she said, "we're meeting with all 3. You're going to pick the meanest one, and you're going to take Vernon for everything he's got." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in our bed, my bed now, staring at the ceiling. Vernon's pillow still smelled like him. His side of the bed still had the indent where he slept. But he wasn't here. He was at the hospital. Or maybe Keisha had brought him home to Fletcher Street. Was he in their bed now? The bed he shared with her on Saturdays? I got up and stripped the bed, threw everything in the wash, sheets, pillowcases, comforter. Then I opened Vernon's nightstand drawer, his reading glasses, a book on fishing, old receipts, and a small notebook. I opened it. It was a ledger, Vernon's handwriting, dates, amounts, notes. Kay's rent, $800. Christopher's school clothes, $150. Fletcher house payment, $1,200. Page after page of expenses. Going back 13 years. Vernon had been keeping track of everything he spent on them. Thousands of dollars. Tens of thousands. Over 13 years. All of it money that should have gone to us, to our retirement, our future. Instead, it had gone to building a life with Keisha and Christopher. I kept flipping through the notebook. Near the back, I found something else. A list of lies. Vernon had written them down. If Gloria asks about money, tell her work has been slow. If Gloria wants to come fishing, say it's men only. If Gloria calls during Saturday, don't answer. Text back later saying no signal. He'd planned it all out. Every lie, every excuse, every deception. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a momentary lapse. This was calculated, deliberate, intentional. Vernon had chosen this life, had chosen to deceive us both, and he'd written it all down like it was a business plan. I took pictures of every page with my phone. Then I kept looking through his things, his dresser drawers, his side of the bathroom, the garage where he kept his tools. In the garage, I found boxes, old boxes labeled storage. I'd never looked in them. They'd been there for years. I opened the first one. Photos. Hundreds of photos. Vernon and Keisha. Keisha pregnant. Baby Christopher. Toddler Christopher. Christopher's first birthday. His first day of school. His soccer games. 13 years of memories. A whole family history I knew nothing about. And in every photo, Vernon was smiling. Happy. Present. The way he used to smile with me. Before the fishing trip started. Before Keisha. I sat on the garage floor surrounded by pictures of my husband's other life, and I realized something. Vernon hadn't just betrayed me. He'd erased me. In this other life, his real life apparently, I didn't exist. I was the woman he came home to on Sundays, the obligation, the routine. But Keisha was the one he loved. Christopher was the son he'd always wanted. They were his real family. I was just the wife he hadn't bothered to actually divorce. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Henderson? This is Keisha. I almost hung up, but something stopped me. What do you want? I wanted to see if you were okay, and to give you some information about Vernon. I don't need any more information. I know everything. Do you? Because I've been going through Vernon's things too, and I found some stuff you should know about. Like what? Like bank accounts I didn't know existed, credit cards in my name that I never opened, loans he took out using our house as collateral. My stomach dropped. What? Vernon's been living way beyond his means. He's in debt, serious debt. How much? At least $80,000 that I can find. Maybe more. $80,000? How? The house on Fletcher Street. He took out a second mortgage last year. Told me it was to pay off credit cards, but the credit cards are still maxed out. So where did the money go? I don't know. But I think there's more going on than just two families. What do you mean? I think Vernon might have a gambling problem. Or another woman. Or something. Because the math doesn't add up. I thought about Vernon's notebook. The careful records of expenses. If he was tracking everything so carefully, where did $80,000 go? Can you send me what you found? I asked. I'll email it to you. But Mrs. Henderson, Gloria, I think we need to work together on this. Work together? To figure out what Vernon's been doing, where all this money went, what else he's been lying about. You want to team up? We're both his victims. We both deserve answers. She was right. Okay, send me what you have. I'll send you what I found. And tomorrow, we'll both talk to lawyers. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't even started to uncover all his lies. The next morning, Ruby drove me to the first lawyer consultation. Attorney Brenda Collins was exactly what Ruby promised. Mean, smart, and ready to fight. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. Again. Brenda took notes, asked questions, nodded. When I finished, she said, "This is one of the worst cases of marital deception I've ever seen. Can I get the house?" "Your house? Absolutely. That's marital property. He can't touch it." "What about the house on Fletcher Street?" "That's trickier. He bought it during your marriage, which makes it marital property. But there's a child living there. A judge isn't going to kick out a 12-year-old. So I get nothing?" "I didn't say that. You're entitled to half the equity, which means Vernon will have to buy you out, or sell the house and split the proceeds. Either way, Keisha and Christopher suffer. That's not your fault. That's Vernon's fault. What about the debt?" "Keisha said he owes $80,000. If he took out loans during your marriage, you might be liable for half." "That's not fair. I didn't know about the loans." "Doesn't matter. If you're married, you're responsible for marital debt. But we're not really married. He forged divorce papers. Which means the divorce isn't valid. Which means you're still legally married. Which means you're still liable." I wanted to scream. "So I'm responsible for debt he took out to finance his other family?" "Possibly. We'll have to investigate. Figure out what the loans were for. If they were for his personal benefit and not marital benefit, we can argue you shouldn't be liable. How long will this take? Months? Maybe a year? Depends on how complicated it gets." "And how much will it cost?" "My retainer is $5,000, but I'm willing to work with you. We can do payment plans." $5,000 I didn't have. "I'll think about it," I said. Ruby and I left the office. "She's good," Ruby said. "Tough. That's what you need. I can't afford her. We'll figure it out. Maybe take out a loan against your house. I'm not going into debt because of Vernon's lies." "Then what are you going to do?" I didn't know. We met with 2 more lawyers that day. Both said similar things. I was entitled to half of everything, but I was also liable for half the debt. And a divorce like this, with forged papers, hidden families, financial deception, could take years to sort out. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. Ruby drove me home. "You're going to get through this," she said. "I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you will." "How?" "One day at a time, one decision at a time, and with friends who have your back." She hugged me and left. I went inside and checked my email. Keisha had sent the financial documents she'd found. I spent the next 3 hours going through them. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. Vernon had been moving money around for years, taking from one account to pay another, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And in the middle of it all, I found something else. A transfer, $25,000, to an account I didn't recognize. Dated 2 years ago, I called Keisha. "Did you see the $25,000 transfer?" I asked. "Yeah, I don't know what that's for." "The account number doesn't match any of yours?" "No, not mine. Not the Fletcher Street account, nothing." "So Vernon has a third account, one neither of us knows about. Or a third person." The words hung in the air. A third person. Another woman? Another child? Another secret life? "We need to find out," I said. "How?" "I don't know. But if Vernon has been lying to us about this, what else has he been lying about? I'm scared to find out." "Me too. But we deserve the truth." We agreed to keep investigating, to share everything we found. 2 women who'd been pitted against each other by the same man, now working together to uncover his lies. That night, Vernon called from the hospital. "Glory, we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Please, I need to explain." "You already explained. You have 2 families. You forged divorce papers. You lied for 13 years. What else is there to say?" "I'm sorry. I know I hurt you, but I love you." "You don't love me. You love having me as a backup plan." "That's not true." "Then what is true, Vernon? Because everything I thought I knew about you was a lie. I'm still the same man you married." "No, you're not. The man I married was honest, faithful, real. You're not real. You're a stranger who looks like my husband." Vernon was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What do you want from me?" "I want to know where the $25,000 went." "What?" 2 years ago, you transferred $25,000 to an account, not mine, not Keisha's. Whose account was it?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me anymore. I've seen the bank records. I know about the transfer. Where did the money go?" Vernon didn't answer. "Vernon? Are you still there?" "I'm here." "Then tell me the truth. For once in your life, tell me the truth." He took a breath. "It was for someone else." "Who?" "Someone I owed money to." "A gambling debt?" "Something like that." "Vernon, what have you done?" "Nothing. I handled it. With $25,000 of our money? It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it, right now." "I can't, not over the phone." "Then when?" "When I get out of the hospital, we'll sit down, all 3 of us." "All 3? You, me, and Keisha. We need to talk. About everything." "I don't want to be in the same room with you. Please, Glory. One conversation. That's all I'm asking. You don't get to ask me for anything anymore." I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. What else had Vernon done? What else had he lied about? Ruby came over that night with Chinese food. "You need to eat," she said. "I'm not hungry." "I don't care. Eat." So I ate, mechanically, tasting nothing. Ruby watched me with worried eyes. "Have you slept?" "No." "Gloria, you need to take care of yourself." "How? How am I supposed to take care of myself when my entire life is falling apart?" "By putting one foot in front of the other. By breathing, by not letting Vernon destroy you. He already destroyed me. No, he didn't. You're still here, still standing, still fighting. I don't feel like I'm fighting. I feel like I'm drowning. Then let me be your life raft. Let me help you. I started crying. Ruby held me. I trusted him, I sobbed. For 35 years, I trusted him completely. I know. How could he do this to me? Because he's selfish. Because he wanted everything and didn't care who he hurt. But I loved him. I gave him everything. And that's not your fault, that's his. We sat there for a long time. Me crying, Ruby holding me. Finally, I pulled away. I need to know the truth, I said. All of it, even if it kills me. Then we'll find it. Together. The next day, Keisha and I met at a coffee shop. We sat across from each other, two women connected by the same man's lies. Did Vernon tell you about the $25,000? I asked. He called me too. Said he'd explain everything when he gets out. Do you believe him? No. Do you? Not for a second. Keisha pulled out a folder. I've been doing more digging. Look at this. She showed me credit card statements, hotels, restaurants, places in different cities. Vernon told me he was working overtime, Keisha said, but these charges are from places hours away, on weeknights. When he was supposed to be home with me, I said, or with me on Saturdays. So where was he? I don't know, but I think we need to find out. We spent the next 2 hours going through records, building a timeline, and what we found was terrifying. Vernon hadn't just been living 2 lives, he'd been living 3, maybe 4. There were gaps, days when neither of us could account for where he'd been, hotel stays in cities neither of us had been to, purchases neither of us recognized. He's been lying to all of us, Keisha said. For how long? I don't know, but longer than 13 years. I felt sick. Who was Vernon Henderson? Really? Because the man I thought I knew didn't exist. He was a stranger, a con man, a liar, and I'd been married to him for 35 years. We need to confront him, I said. Together. When? As soon as he gets out of the hospital. We're going to sit him down and we're going to get every single answer. And if he won't tell us, then we'll figure it out ourselves, and we'll make sure he pays for every single lie. Keisha nodded. Okay? Together. We shook hands. 2 women united against the man who'd betrayed us both. Vernon was being released from the hospital in 2 days, and when he got out, we'd be waiting. With questions, with evidence, with demands. And this time, he wouldn't be able to lie his way out. Because we knew the truth. Or at least, we knew enough to destroy him. 3 days later, Vernon came home from the hospital. To Fletcher Street. To Keisha's house. Keisha called me. He's here. Are you coming? I'll be there in 20 minutes. When I pulled up, I stared at the house, Vernon's other home, the one he'd built with our money. 2 stories, big yard, nicer than ours. I rang the bell. Keisha answered. Vernon was on the couch, still weak. You wanted to talk, I said. So talk. I showed him the bank records. The $25,000, where did it go? A loan shark. I had gambling debts. You gambled away our money? And bad investments, business deals. Keisha spoke up. What about the hotel charges? Birmingham, Savannah, Charlotte? Vernon went pale. Work trips. Your company said you never traveled for work, I said. Silence. What were you doing there? There was someone else. The air stopped. Someone else? I repeated. Besides us? 5-6 years ago, lasted about a year. A year? Keisha stood. You had another woman? It was a mistake. It ended. Her name, Keisha demanded. Angela. I stood up. I want a divorce, a real one. And I want everything you owe me. The house in East Point, full ownership. Half your pension, half your 401k. You pay off all debts in my name. And you tell Christopher the truth, about all of it. Please, he's just a boy. He deserves to know who his father really is. Keisha stopped me. Christopher is 12. Maybe we protect him from some of this. She was right. Fine. But he learns the truth about the divorce, about the lies. Vernon signed a confession I'd had drafted, admitting everything. "We're done here," I said. Outside, Keisha asked, "What happens now?" "Now I file for divorce, and I move on." "What about me, Christopher?" "That's between you and Vernon, but if you're smart, you'll leave him too." I gave her my attorney's card. "She'll help you." 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. I got the house, half his pension, half his 401k. Vernon paid off all debts. Keisha got the Fletcher Street house to avoid custody battle. Vernon moved to a small apartment, lost his job. His co-workers wanted nothing to do with a liar. Christopher sees him every other weekend, but their relationship is broken. I'm rebuilding, still working, still going to church, still in my house. But everything feels different. I don't trust easily. I question things. I protect myself. Ruby says I'm stronger now, steel from fire. Maybe she's right. 1 year later, I sold the house. Too many memories. Bought a small condo downtown, 1 bedroom. Just me. And I loved it. For the first time in my adult life, I lived alone. Made decisions for myself only. It was terrifying and liberating. One Saturday, Keisha called. "Vernon's getting remarried to someone he met 6 months ago." My stomach dropped. 6 months? And he's marrying her? Christopher's confused, hurt, angry. Poor kid. But I'm glad Vernon's someone else's problem now. I laughed. Amen to that. Part of me wondered if he'd tell this new woman the truth, or if he'd reinvent himself, pretend the past didn't exist. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Vernon Henderson was no longer my husband, no longer my concern. He was just a man I used to know, a man who'd taught me about trust and self-worth. I'd spent 35 years loving him. Now I was spending the rest of my life loving myself. Sunday, Pastor Green preached about new beginnings. God can take our broken pieces and make something beautiful. I thought about that. My marriage was over, but I was still here, still capable of joy and love and purpose. Vernon broke my marriage, but he couldn't break me. After church, Ruby and I went to lunch. "You look happy," she said. "I am happy. Really happy." "What changed?" I did. I stopped waiting for someone else to make me happy. I started living for me. Just me. "I'm proud of you, Glory." We talked about the future. Not the pain. Just the future. And for the first time in a long time, that future looked bright. I'm Gloria May Henderson. My husband said he was going fishing every weekend for 12 years. But he wasn't fishing. He was living another life. With another woman, another child, another home. For 13 years, he lied every single day. He forged divorce papers, stole our money, betrayed everything. But I survived. I found the truth. I fought for what was mine. I walked away with dignity. Now, at 59, I'm living the life I was meant to live. Not as someone's wife, not as someone's half, but as Gloria, just Gloria, and that's more than enough.